IDFC Bank to have this event, recognizing the potential of the small units and choosing a place like Ghaziabad, which is, you said about the locational advantage, always the gateway to UP from Delhi. So that is there. See, when we talk about this context of the vision of Greater Ghaziabad, I think we need to look at a little bit of the history. Now, Ghaziabad was, I was reading, was found about 50 years back.
Right.
It was carved out of the Meerut district, right? And then about 30 years back, Gautam Buddha Nagar was carved out of it. And that's what, all this three is what actually is the original Meerut which constitutes the, what we call the Western UP. So that has been the case. So there's a lot of history and deep-rooted industry which is there. Ghaziabad is called the Iron City or the forging capital, with so much of metal forming which is happening here and so many units. We talked about certain data and numbers coming out. I think a very interesting analogy is just in front of us when we saw that while Noida was formed about, the district was formed about 30 years back, while Noida was also formed 50 years back, is the growth and the incubation and the growth of Greater Noida. Right. So it's just here. And what do we see? We see new age Greater Noida coming out of Noida. Noida formed to pull out industry from Delhi as the Okra Industrial Authority. And I think for Ghaziabad it's even more apt because it's a much older town or city with so many industries which we had a brief of in the earlier time. So I think it's a very good choice to expand Ghaziabad. This is something which is going to give a geographical expansion also to Ghaziabad and give it a absolutely futuristic thinking and approach. Not carrying the if I may call the baggage of an old town. So you get a new generation city. You talk about smart cities. I'm sure Greater Ghaziabad will be in that potential. So I think that's a fabulous idea, and it will not just expand Ghaziabad, but to Ghaziabad itself, it will give so much more momentum. Just this formation.
All right, fair enough. Thanks for setting the context. And Abhishek, if I can now come to you. So, Pranay just talked about geographical expansion when it comes to Greater Ghaziabad. And what it seems to indicate is that 220 odd square kilometers would become 300 square kilometers. Likewise, a population of roughly 16 lakhs would become 25 lakhs. How might you characterize the economic impact of this Greater Ghaziabad? What does it ultimately translate to in facts and figures and projections, sir?
Audible.
Yes, sir.
So, a very good evening and an absolute pleasure being here. And thank you, Tina, for bringing this conversation to this wonderful city of Ghaziabad. Now, I come from a sports background, so I'll slightly tilt this conversation towards sports.
Please.
So, as far as Ghaziabad is concerned, under the one district, one product scheme of the government of Uttar Pradesh, it is very famous for its engineering works. Now, with the kind of affluence that the city has, the kind of power that the city has, the kind of culture that the city has, I've been in the city for almost 16 years now. And I can assure you that there's always room, there's always scope for one more sector coming up. One more sector, propping up, spreading its tentacles and creating a very strong base for itself in order to use Ghaziabad as a city, to use it as a launch pad to expand from here. And again, I'm talking about a sector which is generally overlooked, which is generally ignored, which is normally not a part of many conversations, which in a classroom is mostly at the back bench. I'm talking about the sports sector. Now, when we say sports, it's not just about organizing competitions, it's not just about distributing medals, it's not just about giving away prizes. Rather, sports is about manufacturing. Sports is about analytics, it's data, it's high performance. Sports education, sports healthcare. There are so many allied sectors of sports which are now coming up. And these are things which can actually take an economy forward, which can play a very important and an influential and integral role in fulfilling the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of turning India into a $5 trillion economy. And when I say this with full conviction and confidence. I'll give you a very small data here. So, the current, as per KPMG, the current value of India's sports industry is 19 billion US dollars, right? And it's contributing about 0.6% in the GDP of India. Now compare this situation with a country like United States of America, where the sports industry is valued at 1 trillion US dollars. And there the sports industry contributes about 2.6% to their GDP, and that's where I say that sports can play a very influential and important role in growing the economy as a whole. Now, where does Ghaziabad fit in?
Please.
We have a very strategic location. We are located right next to the city of Meerut, which is the most prominent sports goods manufacturing hub of India and maybe the world. And at the same time, we are a part of NCR, the National Capital Region of the country, so we are at a very important consumption hub as well. So on one side, we have the manufacturing, and on the other side, we have the consumption side, the whole consumption of it. And we can play a very important role in bringing these two sectors, these two segments closer and make them intricately connected and linked. And that's where the concept of Greater Ghaziabad can be very prominently looked at.
Right. I think you've told the story well, and there's more to come, but thank you for sharing that, Abhishek. And Kanishka Group was so interesting. Kanishka just mentioned that essentially that Ghaziabad is nested right next to Meerut. When you could have said it's nested right next to Delhi, but you chose to say Meerut, and that Delhi-Meerut expressway is 12 lanes in and of itself, correct? Then you've got the Hindan Airport. Then you've got the Honourable Chief Minister's vision to have the development of an international cricket stadium right here in Ghaziabad, which very much speaks to your vision as well. So I'd like to simply do a deeper dive on the location advantage, because then you've got a spillover of companies, a spillover of jobs, you've got Delhi level housing or perks without the pricing. There are a lot of spillover advantages. So to what extent are those spillover advantages responsible for the Ghaziabad growth story? And do you think Ghaziabad has reached a turning point in its history where it's now becoming self-sustainable?
Good evening to all the distinguished panelists, the industry leaders, entrepreneurs. Yes, what you just said, yes, Ghaziabad has reached to a very important and turning point. And if you look upon the entire journey of Ghaziabad, I would say it's not a strategic partner, it's the foundational partner of the entire growth. And wherein, if you look upon Ghaziabad, it has created that kind of ecosystem which has created certain good industrial powerhouses. Today they have, this particular place has more than 20,000 MSMEs who are contributing to a larger extent. So Ghaziabad is becoming a strategic and instrumental hub for the economic growth, wherein if I could look upon the entire Delhi NCR, wherein Delhi has become more of a decision making or an administrative center, whereas Gurgaon and Noida, they are more the showcases, whereas Ghaziabad is still more, maintaining its own operational efficiencies because of its low operational costs. So that has made a significant difference. Still there are certain areas wherein it could develop itself, seeing the opportunities, seeing the the network which it has, seeing the supply chain robustness. In terms of, I would say, the skills and the technology, because these are two things that can make you stand tall, make you grow, make you, today you could be a micro organization, tomorrow you could land to a small, and then you can reach to a medium entrepreneur or an organization. So technology and digital skills, that would be playing a major role. Like a few minutes ago, from the IDFC, we learned that they are like providing a lot of say credit loans and those kind of facilities. But the major thing is, are they say all the MSMEs like more than 20,000 which are here? Are they like empowered enough? Are they like skilled enough to apply for these loans, to assess the risk, to apply for these loans? Do they have those kind of skill sets and capabilities? What kind of assessments do I make? So those things, I would again say that this say skills and technology would be having those kind of impact, wherein we as Ghaziabad we can take a lead in the ladder.
All right. Fair enough, and I'm coming to you now. Look, the question was around originally, now being the right time as per the Honorable Chief Minister about the formation of a Greater Ghaziabad. And naturally the comparisons between a Greater Noida and a Greater Ghaziabad run rampant. Given that you hail from Noida originally, I'd love your take on this juxtaposition, on this compare and contrast.
Ghaziabad has been originally started long, much before Noida, Gurgaon, Faridabad or any other neighborhood city around Delhi has been there. And Ghaziabad has been a contribution of the MSMEs, earlier called the small scale industries.
Right.
They have been created. Ghaziabad, what we see today, is a result of the small scale industries, now called MSMEs, creating it. So I think it is important that the government looks at the MSME requirements and henceforth the creation of the Greater Ghaziabad, given the fact that these highways which you mentioned, both Delhi, Meerut, as well as the EPP which is already in place, neither did Gurgaon, nor did Faridabad, nor did Noida have these kind of infrastructure facilities in place before they were created. All these, whether it is Greater Noida Expressway, whether it is Delhi-Mumbai highway which is now crossing Faridabad, Gurgaon, or even the highway which is connecting now the main national highway, based into multiple lanes, was much later created after these cities were created, and they have a lot of people living there. Even today, sometimes some of these places, they are facing problems. Ghaziabad has been having a step forward from that perspective in terms of doing those activities, creating those frameworks in place so that the MSMEs can benefit directly. And as I said, given the fact that Ghaziabad was created because of MSMEs, even Noida from that perspective, because it was an extension of Okla, which was created into Noida. So Noida also created because of SMEs and MSMEs. But largely here were the traditional Indians. In Noida, it was a more mix of foreigners or rich, influent HNIs coming and creating facilities. In Ghaziabad, it was the true natural Indian entrepreneur, businessman, creating that structure, understanding the problems which are here, and then still creating that framework and providing for growth, employment and structure. Yogi Adityanath ji has segregated in the current budget itself roughly about 3,500 crores worth of funds for MSMEs. Now it is upon the MSMEs in Ghaziabad and those wanting to come to Ghaziabad as to what kind of kitty they can get out of those 3,500 crores. Because it is not segregated for different states, it's for UP. And Ghaziabad is one of the most prominent growing cities. My colleagues have already highlighted Delhi, you talk of the Indian airport. Gurgaon doesn't have an airport. Noida, it is still yet to come up. Greater Noida, they already have a functional one which is here. Whether it is bus terminal, train terminals, everything is feasible here because they are one of the oldest townships for MSMEs.
And such a fascinating point you made, Aman, about the industrial might came first and it was then followed by infrastructure rather than the other way around.
Correct.
Correct? So I think that's certainly fascinating, and Pranay, bringing the conversation back to you. The statistics also seem to indicate that 40% of the workforce that's in Noida or is in Ghaziabad, for example, they commute to Delhi. Alright, so because they live in Ghaziabad or in Noida, there is a natural cash infusion that of course very much supports the local Ghaziabad economy. What's required such that at a very micro level, at that very micro scale, for that brain drain, so to speak, that Ghaziabad-based talent going to Delhi for work, finding their career trajectory and growth opportunities within this city itself? What more would you like to see perhaps by way of government support to make that happen?
That's a very interesting dimension you put up, and we call it a brain drain. Ghaziabad is so-called UP, but then it is NCR as well.
Correct.
Right, so it is, it is shadowed by the guidelines and policies from both sides. I think it has more benefits than conflicts. So that is one thing which is a benefit to this region. And when we talk about it, people don't live in a Ghaziabad or a Noida as staying in UP. There's in any big city, people move to a suburb. We're talking about the rapid transport systems which are coming. People are going to move, take a couple of hours to move around. We know about people who come from Gurgaon to Noida and Ghaziabad as well. So that is also the case. And so this is a very common practice. It's all very integrated. Yes, because of the mass movement, when the Delhi Metro was, was coming up in various phases, it was the Delhi-Noida connection, which was the most profitable, route because of the mass movement of the people. Now, talking about the so-called brain drain, the point is the growth of Noida and Ghaziabad has also been because of the core industrial aspect, as you said, it grew itself, and because of the advantage of being in the national capital region. So that has been the case. Now, when we talk about it within UP itself, we talk about 10 to 15% of the GDP of the state of UP coming from Ghaziabad and Noida, but as revenue, it's more than a quarter which is coming to the state. So I think one thing is that we should have to look at it in a little more integrated fashion. It's a both-way movement, which is happening. And you talked about the rub-off effect coming from the main capitals. The cost of living is easier, so people are happy to live in this part of the this side of Delhi rather than wanting to be in Delhi. They get all the benefits of Delhi, but again they get the peace of mind with the law and order and everything, which has drastically changed. Today, the way the accountability has been pushed to the ground level, or even to the, if I may call it, the Thana or the Chowki level. When that accountability has come, the law and order situation has made it so much more comfortable. So that mix remains. So I think one thing is we should look at it as a more positive rather than a brain drain. The other thing is the industries, when we talk about all the different sectors which have come up. If you talk about that, development is happening outside Delhi. That growth or investment is not happening in Delhi. Right? Delhi is a political, administrative capital, but all the development, investment is happening in these peripheral cities, and definitely Noida and Ghaziabad take the lead. So we are seeing a massive amount of people. It's in a very integrated form. A lot of people are coming from Delhi to Noida and Ghaziabad also, who have been staying there. So I think it's a little more integrated. We don't need to compete. We are growing together. That's the way I would like to put it. And it's a time of collaboration, as you said in the beginning.
So we can peacefully coexist. Seems to be the moral of the story, and grow together. Right. Well, coming to you. Look, you were sort of characterizing the potential of the sports sector within the state. And when we look at the potential of the industrial sector, the facts and figures seem to indicate that Ghaziabad alone is responsible for upwards of 15% of UP's industrial output. So I'm curious to understand how you map or peg the sports potential of the state, much less a city, and don't comparisons with Haryana run absolutely rampant given the history and the legacy Indian athletes enjoy from that state. How do you essentially compete with that narrative, and perhaps we can peacefully coexist there as well, but it's got to be something that, runs on your mind.
Well, it's a wonderful question. Actually everything for me trickles down to culture. Unless and until you are able to create a culture, you won't end up creating good athletes. Now I'll just take you through the roadmap of how it happens.
Sure.
Increase in sports culture leads to increase in participation. Increase in participation leads to increase in competition. Increase in competition leads to an inflation in talent pool, and you have a bigger bunch of athletes to choose from. An inflated talent pool will help you produce more talented sports persons. All right. And similarly, there's a direct link between sports culture and growth in a particular sector, growth in the sports sector in terms of economy. Again, increase in sports culture will lead to increase in participation. Increase in participation means there are more people who are engaging in sports activities. When there are more people who are engaging in sports activities, it means more consumption. The consumption is going to go up. Once the consumption goes up, so does the demand. As soon as the demand goes up, this automatically triggers the supply to go up. This means more employment opportunities for people who work in this particular sector. More employment means more disposable income. The people will earn more, they invest more, and that's how everything evolves, and that's how it delves into a circular economy. So again, at times I feel as far as sports in Ghaziabad and UP is concerned, we still have to cover a very long way. We, in the sports sector, we do aspire to reach the levels at which Haryana is currently operating at. But at the same time, things have been changing. There are numerous new initiatives which have been taking place. We have a wonderful Mahanaya Stadium which is now under refurbishment. We have the Nehru Stadium. We have announcements of new stadiums coming up. At the same time, we also need to understand that sports is not equal to cricket. There are numerous other games which exist outside cricket. We have a very beautiful athletics culture in the state of Uttar Pradesh. We have a wonderful wrestling culture in UP. We have a wonderful kabaddi culture in UP. There's a huge craze of Kho-Kho. Football is extremely popular in Ghaziabad. So we need to use the games, the sports of which culture is already there, and then take them to the next level.
No, absolutely. I think it's very inspiring and heartening to hear that. And coming to you now, Abhishek, building on some of the observations from the earlier panelists, I think the perception that used to surround Ghaziabad was that it was known for petty crime, pollution, perhaps your occasional underworld gang war Bollywood movie, correct? I mean, you all know which one I'm referencing. And that perception has now begun to rapidly change, all right? And of course, it's an industrial powerhouse, as is mentioned time and time again. But in that, headline description of Ghaziabad, beyond the industrial powerhouse bit in and of itself, what else belongs there? What are essentially the sunrise sectors that have not yet experienced their moment in the sun, if I could put it that way?
Right. Yes, there has been certain times, almost say a decade back, wherein when we say that there were certain disruptions in terms of civic society that used to happen at Ghaziabad. If I look upon the last decade, or maybe 5 or 10 years, I see that a lot of this criminalization and these things, they have vanished from Ghaziabad, and which makes people and other industrialists to make investments or set up industries in Ghaziabad. So those progression has been witnessed, and because of the strong governance, of course. Secondly, because of the ease of doing businesses. Third, because of the government providing assistance and giving certain promotional opportunities. On the other hand, when I look upon the things that have been said by my fellow panelists, like Ganesh said, he is more enthusiastic towards sports industry. So I say that yes, of course, why Ghaziabad should not invest in sports industry. We have almost covered and touched upon so many sectors, be it say in terms of manufacturing, be it metal fabrication, and so on and so forth. There are so many sectors that have been touched upon. So why not let's have a diversification and let's move on and create some sort of investments or disinvestments in the sports sector, and let's have a growth, and let's see what kind of business opportunities we can create for this.
Right. And Aman, given that Abhishek just talked about the last decade in Ghaziabad's history, and the facts and figures seem to indicate that its population has increased by upwards of 20 or 30, or in some reports even as much as 40% over the last decade. However, violent crime has reduced by 30% over that same period. So clearly there's a change in gentry. Can you comment on that? Because you would expect the reverse.
No, I agree with you. If you look at the last 40 years in particular, as I said, initially they start with the MSMEs coming in, industries coming in. You talk of a bank today, they have regional offices in Ghaziabad. You talk of a steel Authority of India, they have a regional office of docking things here. You talk of pharmaceutical, we have one of the largest pharmaceutical Ayurvedic-based product producing company here. So we have some of the oldest, some of the education institutions, prominent education institutions, whether within the part of the university or outside the university, are present here as well. So we've had large number of setups come up as against all other neighborhoods like Gurgaon or Faridabad or Noida. Ghaziabad has been able to develop all those segments simultaneously. Last 15 years in particular, habitation has been the one which has been focused, as you rightly said, number of people. So there has been a focus from industry's perspective to habitation, and habitation of mid and upper middle class. Some rich, yes, very few, and in any case, the lower segment is there. But there has been an extensive boost, the boost you talked about, in the middle and the upper middle. That means those people who constitute the largest population in this country and who have the largest consumable incomes to spend and who have desires to spend. Now those are something which is very critical. The greater Ghaziabad actually offers now, because whether you take off Gurgaon, it has grown primarily as an MNC hub. So you have more operations of MNCs, operations, outside operations, or their offshore offices based there. When you talk of Noida, it is more of an IT hub and new tech based structures. Ghaziabad had all kind of up to movement happening here, but no specific segment. Now with the new greater Ghaziabad coming in, these segments which had not been looked upon in the past can find a reasonable place to find with open sprawling, good connectivity, movements up and down across the globe which could be highlighted. Given the fact that the central union budget also talked about university townships to be coming up, which will be integrated. Now Ghaziabad could even look at that perspective because the basic infrastructure is already in place. They only need to have now the central government's focus coming here also in wanting to set up the setup which will be an incubation of new tech, solar, education, healthcare coming up there, which is also the need of the plush habitat which has already been built. So I think there is a good mix and a good opportunity. Now it's a question whether the people of Ghaziabad as well as the GDA is able to pump it in the right form to bring in that momentum to take Greater Ghaziabad to a new level which will enhance the whole image to the world at large, and not only the question of bringing in people from within the country only. Because huge amount of foreign direct investment. If you look at the macro numbers, $7.5 billion come into India every year as every month as a foreign direct investment. So you are imagining how much amount of foreign direct investment is coming in. How much are we able to capture it in Great Ghaziabad, which is next door, given that we have airports, roads, railways, everything well connected. I think now it is for GDA to think bigger, not only looking at Lucknow, that I need something from there, but at the world at large. And the people are already here because most of these habitat people which you talked about are people who are working with large corporations. Some MNCs, some Indian operators, but working in large corporations. So they have the zeal, and if they have an opportunity to bring their office next to their doorpost, they would love it because they don't want to spend 2 hours on the road. I wish they could spend with their family, with their parents, with their children, enjoying the beautiful facilities, whether it is malls, whether it is, hospitality, entertainment, everything is here. It's only a question of shifting it up. And I think a good handshake between the people, specifically the industrialists, the MSMEs, and the government with the GDA coming in will bring in that fruit for the tree to give blessings of fruits.
Well, we certainly share your optimism, and I'll build on that, posing my next question to all 4 panelists here. So, and I'll start with you, Pranay. When we at Leaders of Tomorrow travel the length and breadth of the country, We try and handpick panelists that have at some point or another through their actions, through their career, through their personal and professional journeys, demonstrated that they care for the small business community. So for the benefit of our audience and the MSMEs that are here, that are perhaps looking for guidance or opportunities or simply a sounding board, who here can represent their voice and how so? Whose doors can they knock on? How can you be of help to this community?
From the position where I come, so I have had, as I work in the Confederation of Indian Industry, and I've been associated for many years, and I have been the chairman of the Western UP zone also a few years back. See, the Confederation of Indian Industries, has been bringing all the industry together, and as more industries have been identified and recognized, CII has, if I look at it, has been doing multiple things. We talked about focus on ease of doing business. What is it? That it is the collective power of the industry, the MSMEs, and everything which is there, which is able to voice to the government from the grassroots level that this is what we experience, this is what we want, this is what has worked, this is something which has to be seen for the future. So I think CII as a platform has done that very well, being as a very strong policy advocacy and interface with the government, telling them what can be done with these suggestions. We have also talked about a lot of areas in terms of the linkage between the industry and the academy. Now, the Western UP, Ghaziabad, Noida, the amount of institutions we have, the amount of young talent which is coming out of it, this is a great potential which is there in line, and we have been able to get the industry and academia together on a lot of domains. It's a very important, for my own industry, it's a very important source of talent. And we work together to get better quality talent. We may talk about skill gaps. It's difficult to get people who have the right skills. But we can't leave it just to the institute. We as industry have to work with them. And I have seen some great success stories with that to my business's benefit also. And CII provides that tremendously. It facilitates a lot of work in terms of when those investment opportunity comes, the visibility to kind of government policies which are there. I would really highlight the kind of policies and benefits which are there, the schemes which are there from the government. It's huge. Bigger companies have departments running just to track the policies and benefits which companies can avail. And they are at the state level and they are at the central level. So we get a lot of that knowledge from our CII community. That is there. And then we work in a lot of policy drafting, a lot of white papers. We engage with groups like Niti Aayog in different industry verticals. So I would definitely say this, that CII is a great platform where you will get to connect with a lot of fellow business owners. For a business owner, I can tell you from my experience, a business owner, you can't talk to the people in your company.
Right.
You're lonely at the top. Okay, so this will really resonate with you if you're sitting among business owners. We have the same problems. You may see that our industry is very unique and most problematic, but if we sit together, we'll find a lot of common things. A lot of learning in terms of technology deployment. We talk about digital manufacturing excellence and all those things. A lot of those learning comes in. There are about 9 or 13 centers of excellence. So I would really, since you asked me that specific question, not just to pitch for the CII, I think that's an opportunity which people should explore. Second thing which I would say at an individual level, I think we talked about, you mentioned in the beginning, demonetization, GST, so many things and so many storms which we face as business owners. I think these are the best times, for us to take a leap forward. These things like be it a demonetization, be it a GST, be it a e-invoicing, be it all those things, they may have been, rules and restrictions to us, but we must understand that that is the platform for us to grow. If I'm willing to do clean business, all these events have only boosted my progress. A micro that has to think like, how do I become a small? The vision has to be, how do I become a small, not stay a micro. A small has to look at it, how do I become a medium? we have to look at that. How are we going to transform that journey? How are we going to go on that journey, which needs transformation at every level, at individual level for all the business owners, because the business and you as an owner are synonymous. So the business has to evolve and the individual has to evolve and transform to grow. Don't shy away from evolution and growth. That is a personal choice which all of us have to take, and we'll find partners in our journey.
Thank you for sharing that, Pranay. And
I'm chairing the sub-chapter of sports for the state of Uttar Pradesh, but at the same time I'm also a faculty. And I head the Center for Sports Research and Development at IIT Ghaziabad. Now, IIT Ghaziabad is one of the prominent business schools of India, which is renowned for its marketing. And trust me, an educational institute like IIT has a huge appetite for research, has a huge appetite for coming up with solutions and innovations. But at the same time, the problem statement has to come from the industry. We have the appetite to undertake researches and studies, but again the challenges has to come from your side. So in short, I will say we need more collaborations. We need to be open-minded. We at IIT Ghaziabad are more than happy to associate and collaborate with MSMEs, offer solutions, whether be it in terms of operations, supply chain, marketing, whatever. I mean, you pose a problem and we'll come up with a solution.
okay, and coming to you now, Abhishek, say a member of this audience has identified their problem statement, right? And of course, none of us have really succeeded in isolation. It requires an ecosystem. It requires mentorship, and that's kind of what it is about those bigger metros that provides that intangible advantage. So for entrepreneurs in this room who have chosen to make Ghaziabad their home, and they're seeking that mentorship, how do you help?
Of course, since I belong to the academic community and we are more into research and training. Like I gave you one example, today morning I was with IIT Delhi, there were certain programs being organized by Government of India at IIT Delhi for MSMEs, even by Ministry of MSME was a part of it. So I imparted training, I helped them how to adopt technology, because when we look upon technology, since I am more of a technology guy, I seek solutions in terms of technology, because nowadays there are a lot of disruptions happening. So how you can stop those disruptions in terms of you have to become more robust, and technology is one side which gives you more opportunity to be robust. At the same time, technology improves your efficiency, helps you adopt change, and makes you flexible, and at the same time it gives you an upper hand if you have those develop those technological abilities. So it promotes agility in you. So robustness and agility is one thing which technology guarantees. So any problem statement coming from MSMEs, I'm professor and area chair at IMS Ghaziabad. Of course, we would be happy to take it up, your research problems. In terms of technology adoption, we will ensure that we provide you the best of the training, so that starting from even your micro problems to starting or creating a website, to how you can reach to the entire globe, or say you can add certain more players and make your supply chain more diverse, we can help you with that. So our hands are we are completely open for you all. In terms of any help you require, we are with you, because this is our combined vision. Like you started off, you said coexist, let's co-create together.
Wonderful. And I'm coming to you by way of closing comments. Earlier in the conversation, it was discussed that limited access to credit and finance are problems that have been plaguing the small business community for centuries. All right, given that you hail from a finance background, and that is perhaps the leading concern on the minds of many, how can they reach out to you for support, guidance, and essentially, that vision to reach the next level?
Even my colleagues from the academics have already touched upon the other issues which could be handled by them at home here and my team and all that. I think finance is the key resource which becomes very critical for any organization to grow. And the second component is out of the box thinking. Unfortunately, when we work in a sphere, when we have been working for such a long time, we get bounded by what we have seen and what are the restrictions in place, and we do not do out of the box thinking. We go traditional financing. You see, most people will think a chartered accountant, you hire a chartered accountant, he'll manage my finance. He cannot. Why? Because he's been taught all his life that you have to see that one paisa, 1 rupee doesn't go away from the glass. He is not taught that you make 100 rupees into 1000 rupees, let 500 disappear. And that is where the out of the box thinking needs to change. Secondly, connecting with banks and financial institutions is critical. Most MSMEs dry up because of funds not being available at the right time, and are ending them up to go to money lenders who extort them like anything, with high rates of interest, at times taking away their businesses, or what are referred to as venture capitalists in the US. So we have now venture capitalists or vulture capitalists as they called in India as well. I think it is critical that government of India, even UP government, is wanting to give due credit. They have created n number of schemes to give credit. It is a question of approaching the right bench in the banks and financial institutions to get that credit, to bring their business, as my colleague just said, from micro to small, from small to medium, from medium to large. It is possible. We as an institution have a one name. Our journal, our name is there at Harvard and MIT. Professors across the globe know Indian Institute of Finance. The journal will bring out Finance India has 6 Nobel laureates. There is not a single institution in the whole country who even has a single Nobel laureate associated with it. We have 6 Nobel laureates associated with one journal for the last 39 years. Now, a Nobel laureate doesn't give his name just like this. We were the first institution to get a .edu status, which is offered only by the US. So there are n number of these kind of things which we have done in the last 39, 40 years. Sitting in India, sitting on the same soil which you are sitting, having the same problems of, lot of animals, insects biting us from all kinds of corners, whether it is private sector or public sector. We don't feel that, and the Ghaziabad MSMEs know this fact, how they have grown to where they are. But to go further, you need out of the box thinking and requisite finances. In fact, I'll tell you, Dhampur sugar mill, just for I'll take a minute more. Dhampur sugar mill, sugar sachets used to be there in all 5-star hotels. They were making major losses. One of my graduate students, way back in 2003 or 4, did a project under the Director of Finance and Assets, because we have live projects as part of the MBA program which we have. And this person said, I said, why don't you raise money from ECB? You are paying about 30-35% of interest. With ECB, you will only pay 1.5-2%. Buy a forward contract and you do it. And they were able to, the fortunate Director of Finance listened to it, and they were able to cut down their losses to profitability the next year. So it's a question of doing that out of the box thinking, looking at venues which are available, and fortunately banks, financial institutions in this country, after Jan Dhan accounts as well as demonetization, are flushed with money and no place to invest. They want secure places. The only logic I gave to Dhampur, I said, look, you are an old brand. You have a product which reaches large organizations. So you have a streamline of flow which is coming. You are making losses because you have huge debt which is piling up. Just do it away. And they did it. And so it's a question of that thinking which is there. I think I should come as a professor to you as a student and you as a teacher. Bring up big problems. Most big problems have small solutions. And that's a very important thing to look at in life. Big problems, big solutions, no. Big problems, small solutions. There is nothing like a problem. Many times people ask me, this war is happening, Trump problem. I said, this is no problem. This is opportunity. Ukraine means business. Trump means business. Someone said H1B visa, what will happen now? No problem. Indians who are hired by American companies, they cannot do them away because the hiring process takes 7 to 9 months. Time anywhere in any organization, which is a large organization. They will have to hire them. Now these people will be hired and living in India, so they will have to buy fridge, house, car, everything in India. Otherwise, they would have gone to the US and made their economy flush. Now they're going to make our economy flush. So it's not a problem. EU trade, first time they've asked for strategic ties. Imagine a developed country coming to India and saying, I want defense strategic ties. I want to buy your defense equipment. I want support from you in defense. From a developing country, from an emerging economy, they're talking about it. That clearly shows the strength of India and Indians which have been there. Indians have been popular. पहले mathematicians, पहले जब जाते थे 80s में, they would say, अच्छा, you're a mathematician. In 90s and 2000 when we went, oh, you're an IT person. Now when you go, are you a banker, financier? For last 10 years, half a minute more. Last 10 years, earlier, ministers, secretaries, industrialists will go to US with a begging bowl. Please do collaboration with us. Please bring some money to us. Now, industrialists from US, from Europe, ministers from US, from Europe are coming to India. Please handshake with us. Please set up something. Hotel rooms running to 35, 40, 50 lakh. One can imagine. Not even in the US. Happening on Indian soil. Now that is the charisma India has, Indian diaspora has, Indian corporations have. If you are not able to take advantage of it, then we are fools sitting in a doldrum thinking that we have done enough and we have nothing more to grow. We can grow to great heights given the positivity which is there for Indians and the Indian corporations today in the world. So it's a question of doing that out of the box thinking, becoming a mentor yourself and taking things forward. Bring in those finances which are craving to be taken away. It is your question of taking that pie. सामने खाना पड़ा है, अब आपको देखना है खाना आप ले सकते नहीं ले सकते और ग्रो कर सकते नहीं ग्रो कर सकते.
So I think that makes for a wonderful note upon which to move on to our next segment. But before we do so, I think I have to thank our panelists for sharing such a rich range of insights from their personal and professional journeys alike. Pranay, Ganesh, Abhishek, Aman, please give yourselves a round of applause once more, ladies and gentlemen.